Welcome into the Texas Tailgate. I'm Bobby Burton. This is On Texas Football, joined by Jerry Hamilton. I tell you what, the Texas band is in front of me. A DJ is behind me, Jerry. It may only be 9:30 in the morning, but the Tailgate crew is here and going at it pretty loud and large, I would say, for an early 11 a.m. kickoff. Texas Tailgate brought to you by our friends at South Point Dodge. Make sure you make your way over them on the Motor Mile in Austin on 535. Also from Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof, as well as Flat Creek Estate Winery. The guys, the closest winery in Austin to the downtown Austin. Again, Flat Creek Estate Winery, home of the Super Texan. All right, Jerry, we got some late breaking news I want you to pass on to people. Some more injury updates for the Florida Gators in particular. Started off with their offensive guard, Damian George.
Yeah, and I'll bring up Bobby Betronic's comment. This edition isn't the Florida Gators. It's the dwarf caiman species. Texas should romp. Look, I think Damian George is listed as out, the right guard, and that's significant because he's number 70, the right guard for the North Shore product that transferred from Alabama. That's where the Florida run game's been going, is behind him a large percentage of the time. So Damian George being out is impactful for the Gators. And also Elijah Badger, the leading wide receiver for this team, with Eugene Wilson already out and having been hampered by injury all year. Elijah Badger is now listed as out on the latest injury report from Florida, the final injury report from Florida. So I went back and looked at and by the way, Pete Thamel put out that Derek Lagway will warm up. I think we all know. I mean, right? He's not expected to play. But do they throw him out there for a play or two? I don't know. But he's not expected to play and be a factor in this game. But the interesting thing is I went and looked back at the Tennessee Florida box score from when the Vols from when the Gators took the Vols to the wire in Knoxville, an overtime game. 6 starters from that game are now out today. 6. So, I mean, they're without essentially a third, more than a quarter, 30% of their starters from that Tennessee game. This is a beat-up team, and Devin Moore, another corner we talked about, he's already out along with Jason Marshall. Jakeem Jackson's been out most of the year. He started the first couple of games. So they're without their top 3 corners. They're without their top guard. They're without their top 2 wideouts. Graham Mertz is out. Derek Lagway is probably – DJ Lagway, I mean, if he plays, I'd be shocked and walking out on the field or something. Montrell Johnson's still listed as questionable. This is a beat-up football team. Now they're healthy on the defensive line and at linebacker, but secondary, they're not healthy. And at quarterback, they're obviously not healthy. And now at wide receiver, they're not healthy. So, I mean, look, it sets up well for Texas, but you got to go out and execute, play a clean game.
All right, Jerry, I need to talk to you a little bit about the Texas injury update now as well, if you don't mind. Isaiah Bond set to play, it looks like. Andrew Makuba, though, questionable, as well as Colton Bostic.
Andrew Makuba and Isaiah Bond are listed as probable again on the latest Texas injury report through the SEC release yesterday. Both those guys are expected to play. Vernon Broughton obviously is out for the first half after the targeting. Colton Vosic's now been changed from questionable to out. So Colton Vosic is out this game, so we might see more Justice Finkley, which would actually match up against this Florida team, Justice Finkley playing. But we do expect Makuba and Bond to play today. So Texas, outside of Vosic, is pretty as healthy as they will be the rest of the season, because Derek Williams, C.J. Baxter, Christian Clark, and Velton Gardner, we've known have been out. So Colton Vosic, the only player that's out this game that wasn't expected to be out coming off the last game Texas played. But Texas is as healthy as they've been in a while. Quinn Ewers should be as healthy as he's expected to be in a while. So Texas should be a very healthy football team, especially compared to the Florida Gators. I mentioned Colt because I was reading an update from Blake Monroe on our Colt Monroe, and he's up and moving and he's up and walking. So for those wondering about Colt Monroe, he's still progressing really well, and they're talking about sending him home soon, which is good news.
Hi, Jerry. I can barely hear you right now. I don't have my headphones on. So I want to ask you this about recruiting. What are we expecting? There were a couple of guys that we thought might make it in for official visits this weekend. Two kids in particular from the state of Florida, Grayson Littleton, and I believe his last name is Wiley. Is that correct? The linebacker out of the Tampa area?
Yeah, Kellen Wiley is in. Both those guys are in Austin. Kellen Wiley, the four-star linebacker out of Sefner Armwood in the Tampa area, just northeast of Tampa. I was by the school last Wednesday. Saw Kellen Wiley. Miami leads Texas, in Florida, and Maryland and Penn State headed into this visit. But this is his first time in Austin, first time on campus. Now, he has an aunt that went to Texas. It won't have an impact in his decision. Texas has a chance to blow him away this weekend. Talking about Kellen Wiley, 6'3.5", 226, can absolutely run, 80-inch wingspan, 10.5-inch hands. I really like this kid as an upside linebacker prospect. But Texas will have to blow him away and then hold off and beat favorite Miami, which he visits November 23rd. And Grayson Littleton, I expect to decide between Michigan and Texas. Michigan is the leader coming into this visit because they've been on him longer. I think Grayson Littleton out of Wiregrass Ranch, again, northeast of Tampa, was at his school Monday. I think this kid will be a great fit at Texas. Culture-wise, I think he'd be a great fit. So we'll see how it goes. He's been on campus once before. The connection with Texas and Grayson Littleton, for the fans that maybe haven't been on our live streams or on ontexasfootball.com this week, he plays with the California Power 7-on-7 kind of football program. They have a big man program as well. The other guys he visited Texas with in the spring, Myron Charles and Javion Hilson. So I think Texas, it's Michigan or Texas. The only way it's not one of those two is if Littleton gets back home after this weekend and thinks about it and said neither one of those really do it for him. He doesn't see himself at either one of those schools. That's what he told me Monday when I was there. He's expecting to decide between Michigan and Texas. So we'll see what happens there. The other thing interesting of note with him is he's with Rosenhaus Sports for his NIL representation. Same people that Jamie French is with. So there's a couple of good factors for Texas. It doesn't decide anything. The interesting thing about the Rosenhaus Sports, when that was announced he was going with Rosenhaus Sports, he had already long been committed to Clemson. So I thought that was an interesting piece to Grayson Littleton's recruitment as well. And then they'll have a few 2026s. 2025 D lineman Baylor commit Jackson Blackwell out of Lorena will be on campus today. But Texas hasn't made a big push there yet, but they just continue to kind of follow him and evaluate him. They've made a bigger push with Malcolm Simpson committed in Nebraska, but neither one of those guys they've set up for an official visit or have offered at this point. So we'll see where Texas goes on the defensive line recruiting, if they try to take 5 or if they have to go to one of those guys to get 4. But Jackson Blackwell and his family are going to be on campus for the second time this year.
All right, we're going to get back to – thanks for that update, Jerry, on recruiting. We're going to get back to our game at hand here and talk a little bit about our friends over at Florida right now. That's coming up next, and talk about the Longhorns game. But first, I want to say thank you to Flight. Flight's the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 carbs. Flight is an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yingling. Thanks to the fine folks at Flight and our friends at Faust Distributing. Jerry, I went to the basketball game last night with Mr. Faust, and we saw Trey Johnson light it up a little bit, buddy. He put on a show for the Longhorns last night. He is clearly, that's 29 points and 28 points in the first 2 games of his career at the University of Texas. He is a special player, and they are still without Tremont Mark.
Yeah.
Man that's by way of Arkansas as well as U of H in the transfer portal. I thought the Longhorn basketball team, before we get into talking about the Texas playing the Florida Gators today, I thought they looked pretty good last night, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, look, defensively, they got to clean some things up, but they're playing without Tremont Mark, and that's a big deal offensively. But you see the firepower they do have on this team. I thought they had better shot selection last night, but Trey Johnson's averaging 28.5 a game. And my son, who's the NBA draft aficionado, he runs On Texas Basketball Instagram, by the way, for all you guys. Go follow On Texas Basketball Instagram. My son's running that for us. he's the NBA draft aficionado, and I follow it closely. Not this early, but he's seeing some top 5, top 6 pick stuff from Trey Johnson that people are already chatting about. If Trey Johnson goes in the top 6 or 7 in this draft, that's unbelievable. This is a draft where if you go in the top 7, you're probably going to be an NBA All-Star at some point in your career. Trey Johnson off to a great start. They got to get Jordan Pope going earlier in games. He got in foul trouble. But it was Jason Kent can shoot the basketball. It's good to see him make shots. But they just got to bring this thing together. But I'm waiting to see them when Tremont Marcus playing. Jamie Vincent came off the bench. I talked about him on here and on OnTexasFootball.com. He had really come on late the last 3 weeks of fall camp here before the season. 6'11", 6'10.5 freshman's got a bright future at Texas. He's good. They may get him on the court a little bit more as the season moves along because he's long, rebound, and he can actually stretch the floor a little bit. So something to watch. A lot of upside with this team. They just got to get there. Two more games against mid-majors, although Chicago State's really good, before they go to New York. Tremont Mark expected to miss those 2 games and potentially be back for Syracuse.
All right, Jerry, we got to get over and talk a little football now. We're literally about an hour and 20 minutes from kick here. We're at the tailgate party. Joe from D.C. is over here hanging out with us. John Donovan's in the house as well. We've got a host of people here at the tailgate just kicking back, watching a little ESPN game day action and eating some kolaches as well as some breakfast tacos, courtesy of our friends over at Surly Horns. We appreciate them making us a part of their game day tailgates each and every week. All right, Jerry, time to talk turkey. Texas versus Florida. You and I both put out our predictions already. I went 27-13 Longhorns, and I believe that the issue here is I think the Texas offense has already shown us who they are. Now, a lot of people are hoping they show us more of who they are, that they get back to being what they were at Michigan. What do you think about that? My take on it, and then I'm going to give you my take on your take. So what do you think about Texas offense is kind of, I don't want to say peaked, but they are who they are at this point. True or false? I'm at the midway point on that, Bobby, because if they just play clean football, then they're going to be okay. They're leaving points on the field, I think, with the no toes left on your feet. I can't say the wrong thing, else you get flagged on YouTube, but I got to use the right choice of words here. But the self-inflicted wounds, the undisciplined penalties, the drive killers, the momentum killers, whether that be special teams, which are part of offense to me in the return game, right? And offensive football, pass protection, and I'm not just putting on the OL, but running backs, everything within pass protection. Quinn's got to play better in the pocket. He's got to react better like he did against Michigan versus what he's done since his injury. Missing Isaiah Bond against Vanderbilt, though, big deal. I think he would have scored on the perimeter on one of those plays potentially. So I'm not sure Texas has – I think they've shown us – I'm not sure they've maxed out yet, but I'm not sure I see a 40-point game in the SEC. I went 34-16 today with this game. And I do think Texas is going to score 30 offensive points in this game. I'll be surprised if they don't. Now, part of it is that Florida's beat up in the secondary. But if you don't see a cleaner brand of offensive football and special teams today, then I will say I'm not sure we're going to see it this year. You guys, let them see your jersey. Look at this. Little Earl Campbell jersey in the house today.
Love it.
Start them young, Jerry. They start them young, buddy.
Hey, by the way, so Sam Mitchell brings up a good point here, Bobby. I don't think anyone on the Florida defense can cover Helm. I think the linebackers for Florida can be attacked. I think running backs, Gunnar Helm, could have a big day today because Florida's got to give a lot of attention to the Texas speed with an injured secondary.
Guys, I tell you what, I cannot hear myself think right now. Much less hear Jerry Hamilton and him pontificate. I have some more questions that I'm just going to pitch up to you, Jerry, and or talk to myself, and then we'll go from there. How about that?
Sounds
Jerry,
great.
let's just talk some recruiting. David Rawls asks, who do you like the best of all three? Malcolm Simpson down at Hitchcock, Jackson Blackwell up at Lorena, or Chase Sims at Richmond Randall. They're kind of different, right?
Yeah, I like Chase Sims in the SEC the most, and that shouldn't be a surprise. He's committed to A&M, Texas, and LSU are still been after him. I think he's got the best version of size, explosiveness, and motor. Now, Jackson Blackwell's got a great motor, but he's not the level athlete Chase Sims is. Malcolm Simpson has a lot of upside as a prospect for sure. I think he is a ways away, though. You can't – if Texas Flip decided to take Malcolm Simpson, he's not a guy you should expect to see on the field as a freshman. He's 260, 265 pounds right now. He has been at Galveston Hall. Now he's at Hitchcock. He is naturally strong. He's a long way away from where he needs to be to play in the SEC. So I would say Chase Sims has the best chance, would have the best chance to play early. I think he's the highest level prospect coming out of high school. And then Jackson Blackwell's got the strength component, but again, Texas hadn't really pushed hard with him, but he's got a great motor. The thing I've always liked about Blackwell is if he doesn't make it at D-line, I think he'd be a hellacious center or guard. But then Malcolm Simpson, his upside's there, but it would take him longer to get there than some other guys they're recruiting.
Hey, I want to read this one. I'm going to answer this as best I can. Greg Jackson, I think, with a good point, Jerry. If we don't turn the ball over inside our own 40, Florida doesn't score 13 against our number one defense. Here's what I say to that. I agree largely, but Texas has been prone to turn the ball over. And they have given short fields. And they've given short fields in a number of ways, including the punting game. And Florida has a better special teams unit right now than Texas, in my opinion. And so, Greg, I agree with you theoretically. I also think I go back to what Jerry said early in the week, and I completely agree with him. Texas needs to win first down on defense to keep Florida behind the chains. They absolutely have to do that today because the last thing you want is Florida 3rd and 2 with a two-way option with a quarterback that all he can do is throw a 5-yard dig, and he's a bright quarterback. He's clearly bright, Jerry. There's a reason he's third string and with the Yale. He's a walk-on. So he doesn't have the big arm, but you give him advantageous situations, he likely can take advantage of it. So I think third down is going to be very, very important. And, Greg, I hear you about not letting him have the ball within our 40, but that hasn't exactly been what Texas has done this year, and especially of late. They've really given some situations that have been advantageous. Jerry, I saw this morning. I sent it to our text group. Todd Lacey asked, did you guys see that Diego Pavia is suing the NCAA? Yes, he is. He's suing the NCAA, and this is something that not everybody will realize. He's suing them because he doesn't think that his 2 years at a junior college should count against his eligibility at a 4-year institution. And he says it's an antitrust argument that is hurting his future NIL valuation. So Diego Pavia, even though he is a senior and expected to be gone next year, he's fighting for 2 more years, one of which he'll be playing the Longhorns in Austin if he gets it, Jerry. Yeah. But just another piece of the puzzle that is evolving as we look at the NCAA going forward and what NIL has meant toward it. One other news and note that has come in late, Jerry, late-breaking news, reporting DeCorian Moore, wide receiver out of Duncanville, Texas, is officially visiting LSU this weekend, Jerry. His former teammate, Caden Durham, a big pull there for him, most likely. But obviously, the Oregon commit that Texas certainly loves and would love to have part of this class, apparently not completely done with recruiting at this point. What do you think of that?
Well, I can tell you this. Texas did not send him an invite to the Georgia game. I actually checked in with the Moore camp before Georgia game, and Texas did not invite him to the Georgia game. Interesting, not surprising. I mean, that recruitment's always going to play out till December 4th, but not entirely surprising for me with him. But again, Texas did not invite him to the Georgia game, and the one thing that I would need to hear from somebody that I haven't heard in regards to him, and I just don't think anything's happened there, is that he suddenly had a change of heart and wanted to stay really close to home and in the state. That just hasn't been there. But again, the main thing is Texas did not invite him to the Georgia game.
All right. Hey, I got another question or two for you, Jerry. This one from Too Broke to Pay Attention. Does this mean you think Texas has a chance to get more to the Kentucky game? I couldn't hear your answer entirely.
Yeah.
What do they?
Yeah,
maybe?
Look, I mean, things would have to change dramatically. They just haven't. There hasn't been any contact there on the Texas end, or wasn't near the end of October. I'll say that. So something will have to change dramatically. I'm not saying it can't, but again, Texas did not invite him to the Georgia game.
All right. Hey, one of the keys for today's game, I think you and I would agree, Jerry, is the play of Quinn Ewers, and whether or not he's going to be the guy that we saw against Michigan or the guy that we saw against Georgia or somewhere in between. The most likely is that it's somewhere in between, right? Those were his highs and lows of the season. But it's amazing to me where people are at on this. Daddy Trill Beef, Quinn has been holding us back lately, but then you have Rob Falter that Quinn will play well today. It is very interesting how fans right now are doing one or the other. It's one or the other that they're either he's not good enough or he's holding us back or he's too good. We got to keep with him. Where are you at on that situation right now with Quinn Ewers and his play so far?
Look, coming off the Vanderbilt game and another off week to get healthy, if we're going to see him play at a really high level again this year, for me, that should be today. Florida's banged up in their secondary. They're not a great pass rush team. Now, they're going to have to bring numbers and take risks today. Texas has advantages all over the field due to Florida's injuries. I know they have SEC athletes, top half-tier SEC athletes, but they're banged up, man. Their three top corners are not playing in this game. Their safeties are banged up in this game. Two of them were on and off the field last week. One of their starting safeties at the beginning of the year is out for the season. I mean, this is not a healthy team in the secondary, and there's advantages all over the field for Texas in this game. If Texas gives Quinn a clean pocket and he doesn't go for 300 yards today and 3 touchdowns, I mean, I don't know. This should be a game where he is physically ready. He's mentally ready. He had a rough start against Vanderbilt, but he came on and then completed 17 in a row, made some really good reads in that game. If he doesn't play a very high-level game today, I'm going to question if we see it again because you should play one today.
All right, I got some other questions here. Here's one that I want to get to. Juan Garza, I think this question's already been answered, but I'm going to read the super chat. DK Moore, he never wanted to be at Texas, question mark. Is that so? Did we already address that?
Yeah, so he just, at the end of the day, I think he wanted, the one thing the draw to Texas was all the family and everybody being out living in Austin, moms from Austin, a lot of family members that went to Texas. That ended up being a negative. He's committed to 2 schools not in Texas. I think with him, I think the family made a huge push for Texas, but I think at the end of the day, I'm not sure he wanted to be around 12 family members all the time in Austin. I mean, there's some kids that are like that. Jamie French told me when I was at Mandarin in July that we were talking about Decorian Moore and his decision, and Jamie French said, man, a lot of people think I'm going to go to LSU because I got like 8-9 family members live in Baton Rouge. He said, sometimes we want to get away for college and do something different, man. He said, I get where DeAndre Moore's coming from. I mean, so that's just funny how that worked out because LSU thought it was going to work out for them. It didn't. Texas thought it was going to work out for them with DK Moore. It didn't. So I think that's where it's at. Like I said, he'd have to have a huge change of heart and decide that he wants to be 3 hours away from home, but essentially be in the same city with all his family for college. And, Bobby, I don't know about you, but a lot of kids want to get away for school.
Jerry, got a couple other things here I want to mention before we get going. Gators have a 300-pound tackle. Tej, that is a 400-pound tackle. That's a typo you made there, buddy. His name is –
might have been 500 pounds.
Yeah, he would make a – I don't know exactly – I don't know the best way to say it, but there's big humans that Sark and Sark and Kyle Flood-like, and then there are oversized humans as well. All right, David Rawls, this is a good question in my opinion. Do the Texas coaches already have a wide receiver portal list? I'm going to answer this a little bit. They have a understanding of who they might want at the very elite level, I think. And that list is probably 2 to 3 people long. But beyond that, there are going to be 50 or so portal receivers that Texas can take a look at that have good production. What I'm being told is that Texas is looking for production plus upside in the portal and how they fit with what Texas already has. So be aware of that. We'll have to see exactly what that means. Jerry and I both think they're going to go for an elite wide receiver in the portal to accentuate what they already have coming back, most likely with Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. So we'll see how all of that goes at this time. Jerry, you have anything else to add about portal wide receivers?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a speed guy. I think it's going to be somebody that has a 10.5, 10.6 on their resume from high school. Because if you look at Khalil Lockett, ex-receiver, 50-50 ball winner, really good playmaker as an outside receiver. Jamie French can play outside, can play in the slot. He can do some things. Those guys are tremendous players without being 4.35 guys, right? There aren't many of those 4.35 guys, but Texas has managed to have Xavier Worthy and Isaiah Bond back-to-back years who are 4.28, 4.21 guys. That's what I think Texas is going to be looking for in the portal at wide receiver. Somebody asked about big human portal list. I mean, I think the thing is you have a department that watches all these guys. You hear some things. Some people probably have reached out to you, but a list yet? Probably not. Later in the month? Absolutely. By the November 23rd, when I think the dust starts to settle with more guys, I think absolutely they'll start to formulate a list of potentials. The other thing I want to say about Desmond Watson, the big defensive lineman for Florida, 459 pounds. He is down from 485, 490 per. And I know that because I was at Sefner Armwood High last week where he played when I went to see Kellen Wiley, same head coach, same coaching staff. And I said, is he really 459 pounds like he's listed? They said, yeah, he is. But he actually had to lose weight because Billy Napier said you got to get down to a certain weight here for us to play you. The Sefner Armwood staff said he has a medical condition that's aiding that. But he was up to 480 plus pounds at one point in time. The interesting thing to watch with him, sometimes Florida lines him up as a 5 technique, and it's a dead giveaway. If they do that, they're going to run a game and a twist with him and the edge lined up as a 3 technique because you're not rushing him up the field. You're not dropping him in coverage. So watch that if Florida lines him up as a 5 today and how Texas attacks that because it's a dead giveaway what they're doing. You can't bring him up the field. You're not going to drop him in coverage. So you know there's a game or a stunt or a twist coming right where when he's lined up as a 5.
All right, Jerry, that's going to do it for this afternoon or this morning, actually. I am sorry, those guys. I could not hear Jerry think the Longhorn band is literally warming up in front of us about 100 yards. We got a DJ behind us about another 100 yards. And in between, there's a bunch of Longhorn fans. There's quite a few Gator fans out here, by the way. One of the great things about the SEC, I got to say this before I sign off, is their teams travel pretty well. Yes. And so it's actually refreshing. Like you would see a smattering, like 1 out of every 200 people would be an Iowa State fan or an Oklahoma State fan. Now there's they travel, and it's not just players, parents, and that sort of thing, which was the case a lot in the Big 12. They really, really travel. So it's really nice to see a bunch of blue out here. If I turn to my left, I see a whole tailgate. They've rented a tailgate area. So that's really, really good stuff for the SEC. I like it's part of what Texas signed up for, I think, with Kevin Eltype, Jay Hartzell, and Chris Del Conte. All right, also, before parting note here, I want to say thank you to our game day sponsors, Duck Camp. I'm wearing this vest from Duck Camp right now. It's the heathered clay color. It looks exactly like burnt orange, in my opinion. South Point Dodge. Get to the point at South Point Dodge there on I-35. Hargrove Roofing, the most burnt orange roofing company out there throughout the state of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Know who's on your roof at Hargrove, Flat Creek Estate Winery, as well as our friends over at Yingling. We'll have more later today with the Watch With Us. Guys, it's been a pleasure. I've met so many of you guys either at the co-op yesterday or here today at the tailgate. Please keep coming up and saying hello. The Longhorn band literally is marching. I'm going to try to poke this way. You can see them way in the offing there. They're marching towards the stadium, getting ready for this contest. Jerry Hamilton, thank you so much. For Matt Hutchison as well. I'm Bobby Burton. This has been Texas Tailgate on Texas Football. Hook 'em, guys. Kick some butt.